SeraNovo, but close
No,
enough.
not
Oh, Niall, I think you're
Niall
right.
Hopkins.
Yeah, close enough.
Yes. Okay. Floor's yours.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Niall Hodgins, and it's a little while since we've been called a startup. Actually, we started the company 10 years ago now. It will be 10 years in March. And so this company started is SeraNovo. And when you take a medication orally, there's roughly two options. Either it can get absorbed by your body and cure the disease, or you can pass it out, in which case it's essentially useless. And this is actually a major block for a huge number of potential new therapies. So you can have all these amazing therapies for oncology or for neurodegenerative diseases, but if they can't get absorbed by your body, then they're effectively useless. So this is the problem that SeraNovo set out to solve many years ago. And maybe one thing to say, when I started SeraNovo, I had no money, I wasn't associated with any university, and there was no team, and I didn't have a lab. So, and I knew almost nothing about anything. Some people would say that hasn't changed. But at least what I want to say from this, so whatever you can see about SeraNovo, at least you can take away that however close you are to starting a company, you're probably further on than I was when I started. And so it's, of course, absolutely possible to make significant progress. So our suite of technologies is called nanoglass technologies, and 7 of the 10 largest pharma companies in the world use our technologies. And it sort of correlates, the more difficult problem you have to solve, the more likely you are to use our technologies. So of course we're based here in Biopartner 1, and we are trying to improve the what's called bioavailability, the absorption of drugs. Let's see if we don't need this, but so we have roughly 3 technologies. We actually have 6, but when I'm talking to companies, it's impossible to talk about 6 technologies, so we only talk about 3. So we have 2 oral solid tablets that use our technology, and then we have 1 lipid-based formulation. So these are kind of like a next generation on the current way of administering therapies. And the basis of our technology is that in order to have the theoretical highest absorption of a drug, you must generate amorphous nanoparticles of that drug in the stomach and ultimately in the intestine. That is how theoretically you would achieve the maximum amount of absorption. That doesn't necessarily have to be 100%, but it's at least as good as one can do. And so let me just sort of give you a little bit of a look at how this actually works. So this is an example of one of our formulations. So it's a powder at the bottom of a jar here, but the jar contains a stomach medium. So when our formulations hit the stomach medium, they transform into these amorphous nanoparticles of the drug. And then as we move from the stomach into the intestine, you can see that these sort of nanoparticles are usually a little less than 500 nanometers. They stay perfectly stable. But once in the intestine, then things can get absorbed. So your stomach's not so good at absorbing things. But once it gets into the intestine, then these nanoparticles can start to get absorbed. And you can see that as you dilute the system further, meaning as you simulate it moving further down the small intestine, more of these nanoparticles, in this case dissolve, in the body get absorbed. And you can see we continue to get more absorption. So this is what we try to do for every client therapy that comes through our door. So let me just give you one example of how this looks. So the graph on the bottom left is a blood profile of, in this case, a rat. And here you can see on the bottom line is if you just administer the drug on its own, so just the normal drug, you can see not so much drug is being absorbed. Then the commercial formulation, which is sort of the state-of-the-art, the best that was possible to do, is about 5 times higher than that. And then the SeraNovo formulation, and we sort of purposefully took one of the most difficult oncology molecules to formulate, you can see it's like 5 times higher again. And so this is what is possible once you're able to achieve these amorphous nanoparticles. So at least that's a little bit maybe on the technical side. But I guess one of the difficult things especially in pharma or in life science, it's never sufficient to just be a bit better, because everyone will just stick with what they already do. And so on the scientific side, we got to the point where, okay, it was great, we're now significantly better than the state of the art, but then we had to say, okay, like, how can it be so compelling for our clients that they wouldn't even think about going somewhere else? So then we said to them, okay, our new proposition for you, so this year, our new proposition for you is give us your drug. In 2 weeks, we'll test like 600 formulations. We will do all of these in vitro analyses. And 2 weeks later, we will manufacture them, ship them to a site, and you can test them in a live scenario. And then you will see how much better they are. And pay us a relatively small amount for that. We'll just make it, so cheap that they wouldn't think about doing something else. So now we had the super compelling technical angle. Then we couple that with a super compelling commercial angle. And then it becomes much easier. So at least, maybe as an intro, that was what I wanted to say, but this message is maybe not so important about the technical side, or SeraNovo for that matter, but I guess the key message is there's nothing special about SeraNovo or the way I did it. It's absolutely possible for everyone else to do. Like I said, everyone's a little bit further on than I was when I started, so it did take 10 years, it took a little bit of time. I'm sure many of you can do it faster, but it's absolutely possible. Thanks.